An input device is a computer part, a hardware computer part that allows the user to enter information into the computer. Some input devices include the keyboard, the mouse, the scanner, the microphone, the joystick, trackball, touchpad, touchscreen, and light pen. We're going to be learning about all of these different kinds of input devices. An input device is anything that allows you to put information into the computer, hence the name input. Any input device is going to be hardware. Right now, all we're going to be talking about is hardware. The keyboard is the main text input device. A keyboard, as you know, contains lots of keys that let you do all kinds of things. You don't really need to write down all the specific things because you already know those things. You already know that it contains letter keys and number keys and standard function keys and things like that. What you do need to write down about keyboard that it is the main text input device. You also need to write down that the QWERTY keyboard is the standard arrangement for keys that we still use today, that was originally used in the 1870s, and it comes from the name comes from the upper 6 letters on the top row of alphabetic keys, QWERTY, and that's the main keyboard that we use today. The reason it was designed this way is because the original typewriters, they would have little bars that would come up and they would hit ribbons of ink that would allow you to transfer the letters onto a piece of paper. And they designed the keyboard with the letters so that they would not hit and stick together at the same time, at least the most common words that they would type at the time. And just since that's what we knew and had already learned, it's just continued on. There is another version of the keyboard. It's called the Dvorak keyboard that is supposedly more efficient once learned. I've never used one, but it is an option if you happen to be in a place that uses one. All the keyboard is underneath all the little keys themselves is a bunch of wires that connect together in that grid pattern, and when they touch, there's an electrical pulse sent through the wires to the computer chip that's inside the keyboard that lets you translate that data into binary code or binary language, which is a 1 and 0. It's the only language that a computer can read. Underneath each key, there's a little dome, depending on the kind of keyboard you have, that when you press it down, it bounces back up after sending the data from pressing the chip via pulse to the computer so that it types a letter. Now, it has to be typed at a certain speed, otherwise it's going to hold down that key. If you hold it down too long, then it's going to continually type that letter. Or if you don't press it hard enough or too quick, then you won't have anything come up on your screen at all. So you need to type at a certain speed, which is quick and snappy as if the keys were hot, so that when you type, your information is transferred over. Now, the mouse, of course, is another main input device. It's the small device that we use to push across the desk surface and move our mouse pointer, or arrow as we know it on our computer screens. The buttons at the top of the mouse are used to perform tasks such as making a selection, changing the view, moving an item on the screen, or resizing an object. And there are 2 types of mouse, or mice, depending however you want to say it. The optical mouse and the mechanical mouse. Now, we don't generally use the optical mouse or the mechanical mouse anymore today. Haven't seen one in a while. Mostly we use optical mouses. These use the tiny camera. It takes over 1,000 pictures per second to determine how to move the mouse pointer. It has a small red light-emitting diode, or LED. You need to make sure you're familiar with the term light-emitting diode, or LED, and that bounces the light off the desk onto a sensor, and that sensor changes the light into an image using a digital signal processor. Make sure you know that as well, the digital signal processor. That's what allows you to change your information. And that's going to determine how your mouse will move. Now the mechanical mouse, all you really need to know about that is that it uses the balls and rollers to determine how to move the mouse pointer. We're not going to really get into the design and all that kind of stuff of the mouse, the mechanical mouse. We don't really need to know that. Mostly it's just you need to know that the processor chip reads pulses from infrared sensors and turns them into the binary data that the computer can understand. Binary data is that 1 and 0, which is the binary code or the language of computers. And that has to be translated. Now a scanner is another kind of input device that reads picture or text and then translates it into a form that the computer can use and understand. And the scanner is often referred to as the eyes of the computer. It uses mirrors and LEDs to create a white light that's captured by a row of sensors that convert the information into an image. So when you scan something in, it comes across not as a Word document or any of that, it comes across as an image or a picture. Another kind of input device is a microphone. Microphone is used to record or transmit sound, such as a person's voice. Mostly what you need to know about that is that it is just used to record or transmit sound, any kind of sound, and that we use it to communicate. Our class is named Information Communication and Technology. So it's one way we use to communicate. The joystick is another type of input device that's a lever that when pushed and can move in all directions, and it will move your mouse or your cursor across the screen or another object depending on what you're using your joystick for. These joysticks usually come with buttons called triggers, and they're mostly used for computer games, but they are also used occasionally for computer assisted design or CAD applications. A trackball. Trackballs used to be common on laptops. Haven't seen one used much recently. A trackball is an input device that contains a ball that when you move it, it changes the position of the pointer on the screen. But unlike the mouse, the trackball is not pushed around. The whole device, like your whole mouse, is moved around your desk. But with the trackball, you just move the ball that's in the center of the device, while the device stays stationary. Some laptop computers may still have these, though today most laptops have a touchpad, which is beneath the keyboard. It's what my laptop has, and it's used to position the mouse pointer. The touchpad is another kind of input device that reacts to the touch of a finger as it's moved across the pad. Now, a touch screen is a special kind of monitor that's used with your finger to make selections. So if you click on something or press on something, kind of like an iPad, or you might have your cell phone, of course, that has a touch screen. Bank machines, kiosk machines, they have these too. You go to Walmart, you buy something. Generally, we use a light pen or a pen instead of our finger, but it's still a touch screen. Now, you don't need to know every single detail about them. You're familiar with a touchscreen. Just look at it so you're familiar with the specific terminology that's used. Now, a light pen is a pen that's shaped, a pen-shaped object that's dragged over a computer screen or tablet or any kind of other electronic device that you can make menu selections with or write handwritten notes or draw with. Can be called a digital pen or a scribe. Artists, designers tend to use these kind of things when they are drawing. Now, when you took notes on this, you should have taken notes in brief so that you're not writing every single word. And lists often help when you're studying. If you make a list, if there's a way for you to make a list, see how I made a list of input devices? Your note should be similar to this. And you can use abbreviated. You don't have to write down every single word. So it's important that you learn note-taking skills when you're reading. because writing down every single word is very difficult. But if you get the important points and the key points, that's all you need when you're studying.